Before I start, I should say that my son is 5, and only in the past 3 to 6 months has the father and his partner been consistent in his life. Anyway, my son's father sees him for 2 nights every fortnight. He picks him up late Friday night and drops him off early Sunday morning, every 2 weeks. Now, when he first started being consistent, I would offer money to make sure my son was fed and safe. I only did this because for the last 5 years he would give an excuse of I have no money to feed him or I have no petrol. My son's dad, so I offered the money so that he would have no excuse not to spend time with our son. After about the 3rd time of being consistent, his dad said, "You don't need to offer me money anymore. I'm working full time and want to step up more." I didn't ask for child support. I never have. Everything my son has, all his toys, all his clothes, all his school stuff, every experience he had, I've paid for, and I'm proud of that fact. Fast forward to a month ago, and I received a message from my son's stepmom. They aren't married but have been together for 3 years, have a child together, and are engaged, so it's easier to describe her as a stepmom. The message had said that it isn't financially fair on them to have to pay for things my son wants when he's with them. She's asked for $100 a night, so $200 a fortnight, to pay for his food, clothes, anywhere they go, and any toys he wants when with them. I responded with, if he wants a toy when with you, either you or his father can message me, and I'll happily transfer the money to one of you, as long as the toy comes home with him. She said it was irresponsible parenting on my behalf for not wanting my son to have nice clothes and toys when at his dad's house, and that anything bought with them should stay with them. I agreed and said anything they buy for him should stay. She then made a big deal and posted on social media about how I'm a bad mother and refused to take financial responsibility for my son. I screenshot it and sent it to his father and explained the situation to him. He apologized and said he had no idea. She then messaged me accusing me of trying to break up their relationship because I'm a jealous ex, and that she doesn't think it's fitting that she should have to babysit my child for free. I said that's fine. If my son isn't seen as part of your family and is just a child being babysat, then maybe the custody situation should be revised. I know it's harsh because I don't blame my son's dad. I'm just at such a loss and feel like a major idiot. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but the stepmom is. Have you screenshotted those messages also and sent them to a lawyer? He wants to step up for his son. He should do so to his wife as well, or remind his wife that her husband would legally be responsible for child support. So if she wants money for 2 days every 2 weeks, you might do the same and go for child support for the other 12 days, and that you could go after the child support of the last 3 years, if that is what she wants. The irony of asking for child support when you should be the one paying it. Any amount of money in this situation would be ridiculous, but I can't get over the audacity of $100 for what's barely more than a day. The kid already has clothes, and it's hecking weird to buy a 5-year-old a new toy every time you see him. Kids are expensive, but not that expensive. Based on the husband's reaction to OP informing him of what his wife is saying, it is entirely possible that the wife isn't actually babysitting or paying for food, toys, etc., and is just trying to scam OP. He probably realizes he has a good deal not having to pay child support. His partner's rocking the boat because she's greedy. She wants OP's money for herself and her other kid. But seriously, go for child support. You're letting down your son by not holding his father to account for part of his upbringing. And that money is for your son, not you. You need to step up and advocate for him so you have the appropriate resources to give him the upbringing he deserves. Even if you want to keep taking pride in paying for everything, at least take the money and save it to give to him when he's older, instead of enabling a deadbeat. You are the idiot for hampering your child's future financially. Mini update. Thank you for your helpful comments. I didn't put it into perspective of asking for child support as a way of advocating for my son's rights. I will be speaking to my social worker and asking for child support that'll be put into a bank account for my son. Thank you. My first wife passed away 12 years ago, and I was really young at that time. It's been hard for me to move on, but I did my best to get over the loss and move on. I loved her a lot in the past, but it's my past now, and I need to live the present for myself. I met my girlfriend 7 years ago. I love her, and she's always respected that I'm a widow. I don't really name my first wife except on occasions when I tell an anecdote. I want to give my girlfriend the place she deserves when she's there. I've had many bad experiences in a grief help group and learned what not to do in a new relationship. I'm going to get married in November. At first, I didn't know whether to invite my first wife's family because I didn't know if they would want to attend, so I never said anything to them or invited them to the wedding. I don't talk with them except for a text every few months. Still, her mother was the one who texted me to tell me that she'd be delighted to go, so I ended up inviting her and her husband. They kind of invited themselves. I have problems saying no, and much more so in that situation. Over the weekend, we were putting some things together, and my mother told me that it would be good to put an extra chair in honor of my first wife. That was an idea of my late wife's mother, but she didn't talk about that with me first, but with my mother. We pay per seat, and each chair we put up is charged as if it were a person. They would even charge me for drink and food, as if someone was really present. And honestly, I'm quite tight financially on the wedding. I think it would be a waste of money on something symbolic, because if I do that for her, I also must do that for all the members of my family who died, because they would complain about it. My father and brother also died, so that would be even more money. I'm not a spiritual person either, so I don't believe in those things, and I don't like any kind of ritual or symbolic thing. I also don't want to have a moment to talk about deceased people and kill the atmosphere. I just want a nice and joyful wedding for my girlfriend. Just to make my mother shut up, I said that if someone offered to pay the money, I would ask for more chairs. That would be 7 relatives too many. I knew that nobody was going to pay for that because I couldn't spend the money on more things. No one talked, and I thought that she would forget that. But then my mother said that then I should include photos of me and my first wife when they show the typical video of the bride and groom as they grow up. I just don't want to do that. I even find it disrespectful for my girlfriend to put pictures of my first wife when I'm getting married again, let alone make a whole video about those times. It's just weird to me. But I know that there are widowers who've done that, so it leaves me confused. My first wife appears in some of the photos I chose to go through in the video, not the one my mother wants me to do, in photos where I'm traveling with friends or family. It's not that I'm hiding her identity or anything like that, but I just want that moment to be my wife and mine. I already healed. My mother and family in general have been doing everything to make me feel guilty. And honestly, it's hard not to feel guilty when the words come from a person who went through the same thing as me. My girlfriend would agree because she's really kind and she's already said that she's not really interested in what others think because she's the one who'll be my wife. I'm the one who feels uncomfortable. Am I the idiot? I want that moment to be my girlfriend and mine. I already had that moment with my first wife years ago, and now I want to have this moment with her. Is it a bad thing? Not the idiot. I agree with you. It would be too disrespectful and too uncomfortable. This moment should be all about you and your current. Don't forget the past, but celebrate the now and the future you have together. If I understand correctly, people put a chair for a lost loved one to symbolize their being at the event. Why would OP's mother and former mother-in-law feel that his first wife would be at his wedding to another person? And why would his mother push for this, but not for his father and brother to be there symbolically? I wouldn't be surprised to hear that they don't like his current partner. You could make a dedication. Ask everyone to wear black. Actually, why not ask your fiancé to just stay home? She might make your first wife's family uncomfortable at the memorial. Wedding. Obviously, not the idiot. This whole situation is completely macabre. I, 46 female, and my partner, 57 male, of 5 years, are talking about moving in together after my kids from my previous marriage have moved out. He has a fully paid off house, and I have a house with a mortgage. It's likely that I'll have to move into his house as it's bigger, and I rent out my house with a rental income of around $600 per week. When we spoke about how to manage our finances, he suggested I pay half of all the bills and groceries, plus 50% of my rental income that I receive from my house. Paying half of all the bills and groceries, I completely understand. But half of my rental income to him, even though he has no mortgage? I didn't think it was fair. I didn't quite understand why he wanted me to give him 50% of my rental income first. He then explained that in case we break up and he doesn't want to feel like I've taken advantage of him and the living situation, and to make things fair, we should chip in 50-50 in everything. I don't feel, though, this is a 50-50 deal. More like 80-20 deal with him benefiting more than me. I would pay a maximum of $150 a week rent, plus bills and groceries. That is around the amount I'm willing to pay, not $300 a week rent, plus bills and groceries. As a side note, my income is around $75K, and his is around $85K, half of which comes from his rental income from his own investment property. Am I the idiot for not giving 50% of my rental income to him if I move in with him? We should chip in 50-50 in everything. Cool. Ask him for all his income sources so that you can get 50% of it. Tell him you're looking forward to him paying 50% of your mortgage. Holy Christ. I'm sorry to be rude here, but how many red flags do you need? He wants to profit from property that's not his. If you move in together, it should be because you legitimately want to live together. If he's going into this saying that you have to prove you're not taking advantage of him by giving him money, that's him taking advantage of you. Here's a thought. Why doesn't he move in with you and use half of the money he gets from the sale of his house to pay off your mortgage? You know, so he can prove he's not taking advantage of you. See how ridiculous that sounds? Not the idiot. And if you ever get married, get a prenup. I, 50s male, have a brother I prefer to avoid. He isn't a great father. He cheats on every relationship he's ever had. And he's just mean. I see him maybe once every 2 years. So he cheated on his first wife around 8 years ago, and she left him and took their 2 kids, now 18 female and 21 male, to live on her family ranch in a rural part of the county. He remained in the city, married the mistress, and saw his kids maybe twice in 6 years. I was good friends with his ex-wife's brother, so I visited the ranch and brought my kids over regularly. Hence, my niece and nephew still knew their paternal family. They live a great life outdoors, growing all their own food and living with all their relatives nearby. They've grown into outstanding young people with a great work ethic and appreciation for the earth. I sometimes wish I had taken off to the country and lived in a rural community too. My niece is going to attend university out of state, and she spent her last summer visiting all the family before she went. I organized a family dinner and she attended, as did her father. Living in the country for 8 years, my niece has developed a country accent. It's very mild, but you can still hear a little twang when she speaks. I personally think it's adorable, but my brother hates it and demands that she speak properly. Over dinner, he kept repeating words she'd say to try and teach her the proper way, and eventually, I told him to stop. He then started saying she wasn't going to go anywhere in life, sounding like a farmer, and I started yelling at him. I called him a classic idiot. He looked down on his ex-wife and how she chose to raise the kids he abandoned, and I think it's dumb. I said that if he was so upset about her accent, he should have actually raised her, and I said he was a classic idiot. I reminded him that his ex-wife was a very successful woman with a country accent, and that her accent was one of the things he loved about her when they met. He stormed off and he's demanding that I apologize. He thinks I had no right to insult him for wanting his daughter to speak properly, and calling him a classic idiot was a low blow. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He is a classic idiot, as anybody who judges another person on their accent. For what it's worth, when I used my mom's Tennessee accent at my customer service job, I had way better interactions and therefore better stats. You stood up to your moronic brother and defended your niece and her mom. That'll live rent-free in your niece's head for the rest of her life. You called him out properly, and he couldn't stand it. He stormed off like a toddler who didn't get his favorite toy and decided he didn't want to play anyway. You don't owe him anything. Let his blustering holier-than-thou attitude blow away in the ill wind it came in on. Good for you. It sounds like your niece and nephew had a lovely childhood growing up in the countryside, and from what it sounds like, not growing up with someone so disrespectful and who clearly doesn't put their feelings first was maybe a bit of a blessing. Try to see him less than once every 3 years. My 25 female, husband 30 male, has been acting really strange recently, staying out late without any explanation, leaving really early, and random expensive gifts with no apparent reason. I'm not naive, and I've put 2 and 2 together and realized he was cheating. I didn't want to start looking through his phone and his belongings, or start stalking his social media or any of that, so I sat on the couch and waited for him to come home. Once he got home, I asked him to sit down and asked him if he was cheating. He was honest and told me he was, and apologized, said it meant nothing and it wouldn't happen again. Honestly, I cannot trust him, and without trust, a relationship can't survive. So I went upstairs and packed my things. He chased after me, asking me to stop and give him a chance. I just finished packing and left. This was 3 days ago, and since I left, I've been bombarded with texts and emails and voicemails, saying how could I leave without even trying to fix things, and that if I ever loved him, I would want to stay and go through this, and that every couple goes through hard times. I am really conflicted, as on the one hand, he was my first love, and I haven't just lost those feelings overnight, but on the other hand, he broke my trust, and truthfully, he won't ever earn that back. Am I the idiot for leaving my husband without putting up a fight? If I ever loved him, I would want to stay and go through this. LOL. If he ever loved you, he would not have cheated on you. He stopped fighting for your relationship when he started cheating. What he's doing now is victim blaming. Not the idiot, and please proceed with the divorce. You'll never be able to trust him again. How dare she act like a level-headed, mature human and not throw a temper tantrum after he cheated on her with someone that meant nothing? How dare she take the next logical step after realizing that she'll never be able to trust him again? How dare she not be overcome with emotions and act like a scorned lover? How dare she not beg him to come back to her? Wow, this guy is something. The trash took itself out. OP is admirable for her reaction in response to his cheating. He doesn't want her back. He wanted her to win him back and beg him to be with her. Her leaving has shattered his ego, with him thinking he was so desirable, and she doesn't give a crap. OP, don't even bother to reply. Don't be drawn into his attempt to get you to boost his ego. You're doing the right thing in leaving someone happy to lie to you for extended periods of time. You can do way better.